In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, Cade Cunningham has made the All-NBA third team officially. We'll break down what that does to Cade Cunningham's contract and how that affects the Detroit Pistons salary cap moving forward. Today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. I've been the host of Locked On Pistons, covering your Detroit Pistons since 2021. For the last 4 years, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. There's another great way to support the podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You guys already know it. Head to the description down below for the playback room, where we've been watching some of the playoff games. We just watched game 1 of the Pacers and Knicks. That game was absolutely insane. And also, hit that SUBSTACK button or SUBSTACK link in the description down below. You guys will have Jalen Duren's playoff player season review coming out tomorrow. Should be coming out Saturday morning. A lot of numbers, a lot of film breakdowns in that. Make sure you guys check that out if you guys have enjoyed the player breakdowns we've been doing over on the Substack. But in today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, we'll be breaking down how Cade Cunningham now making All-NBA, how that impacts the Pistons salary cap sheet moving forward. And then the rest of the podcast, we have a mailbag episode answering all the questions from you guys, such as who's untouchable on this team, what's a contending type of move the Pistons can make, among a bunch of other questions. So stay tuned for all that. But let's go ahead and get into it. It was announced about, I'm recording this at 8:30. About 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago, that Cade Cunningham was officially named a part of the All-NBA third team. He is All-NBA member. So first, I want to say congratulations to Cade. Amazing to see that Cade is finally getting his props, that he had such a great season. And that coming off a year, obviously, of the 14 wins and people questioning, is Cade the franchise guy coming back? Everything he did this year, making the playoffs, winning the playoff game, breaking the playoff drought, and now also making an All-NBA, just shows that the Pistons really do have their franchise guy, and he's getting his type of respect and getting the awards he deserves. I know this is something that Cade's wanted. It was something he felt like, I know that him and his team felt like they were kind of being snubbed on some awards because of the team's success lately. So I'm happy to see them getting Cade getting his respect as of late. But I will say this. Him not getting All-NBA second team is pretty crazy to me. I'm going to go out there and just say it now. I feel like he should have made it over Ant. I feel like he should have made it over Steph. And I feel like he should have made it over LeBron. Steph's maybe my favorite player ever. Steph, until February, until they acquired Jimmy Butler, was not playing at an All-NBA second, maybe not even at All-NBA third level at this point until February, until Jimmy Butler showed up. And that was, a 25-ish game sample, maybe 25 to 30 game sample. That can't completely erase the entire beginning of the season. So that's why I would take Steph out. I think Cade was just flat out better than Ant this year, so it is what it is. And then also LeBron, I feel like, maybe not LeBron. LeBron slowed down a little bit, I felt. I'll let LeBron keep his. I believe I had Cade on second team with LeBron in my All-NBA team voting. But I feel like Cade definitely should have been All-NBA second team. But it is what it is. You'll take third team. You'll take the respect. It is what it is. But doesn't matter if he's All-NBA third, second, first team. His contract was going to be affected the same type of way no matter what. And this is what I think really matters here. So Cade is now going to see, and Bobby Marks, I'm looking at Keith Smith's tweet, but Bobby Marks also had a great tweet showing exactly how it jumps and everything that happens with his contract. But Cade's contract is now going to look like this. Next year, he will be making $46.4 million. He was going to be making $38.6, so he sees an $8 million increase that year. Next year after that, $50.1 million. Next year after that, $53.8 million. Then $57.5 million, and then $61.2 million. It is now raised from $224 million contract over 5. It is now a $269 million contract over 5 years. Obviously, you take that. That means your player's great, and he's matching or he's reaching his ceiling and reaching what you expect from him. So you take that. It's not, you can't look at it as a negative that he's getting paid that money. That just means he's accomplishing what you want, what you were expecting when you initially signed him to this contract, right? I do see a lot of people saying, and I somewhat agree to a certain extent, but see people saying that if a team who's drafted you signs you to a rookie max extension, and then you qualify for this payment increase, you can get the increase in money, but the increase shouldn't count towards that team's salary cap. I do think that's an interesting idea. I understand why people are asking for that, because it really does kind of hurt the team. It kind of has the team somewhat like hate watching. It feels like it almost feels like it hurts the team when the player matches expectations. So I understand why people have been asking for that, but just throwing that out there. But what people should really be paying attention to is what this does now to the Pistons cap sheet coming up this summer. So again, Keith Smith, the Spot Track, had a great tweet for this. I'm just going to read it right here. Obviously, we had Keith on the podcast to explain this to us in February, right before the trade deadline. We'll have him again once the playoffs wrap up. I want to give him some time to get over that Celtics loss. But yeah, we'll have him back on after the playoffs. But this is what he tweeted out. And this is extremely important. Before Cade made All-NBA, Detroit could have created up to $24.5 million in cap space, along with the $8.8 million room exception. Now that Cade has made All-NBA and he's seen that contract increase, the most the Pistons can create in cap space is $16.9 million now, along with that 8.8 room exception. If they stay, and we've talked about this a few times on the podcast now, if they stay as an over-the-cap team, they will then have the $14.1 million taxpayer MLE and the $5.1 biannual exception. This, I feel like, I felt like it was basically confirmed before, but this all but confirms that the Pistons are going to much rather operate as an over-the-cap team, and here's the reasons why. One, in order to create that cap space, you got to let a bunch of people go, release a bunch of people's cap holds, and it's only increasing $2 million over what you would have on the non-taxpayer MLE. It's not worth releasing everybody just to get that, or releasing these cap holds just to get that MLE. That's first. Second, of all the teams that are going to be interested in Malik Beasley, I'm going to say pretty confidently, I feel like 100% of them will also be over-the-cap teams, which means they can only offer the same amount the Pistons can with the non-taxpayer MLE, which is around $14.1 million. So the Pistons will be able to offer Malik the same contract any other team can offer him. And now it just comes down to, does he want to come back to Detroit? And I think that is the case. I think he does want to play in Detroit. The other reason that they would like to stay over the cap is you retain the bird rights on Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr., and a few other players, but it's really just Dennis Schroeder and Tim Hardaway Jr. you got to worry about. It just doesn't make sense for the Pistons to try to release cap holds just to create $2 extra million in cap space. And if you want to be honest, if the Pistons felt like, okay, we got to create this $17 million in cap space to re-sign Malik Beasley, you probably shouldn't be re-signing Malik Beasley. I don't think you should be going above $17 million. I think $14 million is a good contract for him. You start getting to $17 million and you're trying to go in a race like that for Malik. I understand he was great, but one, I don't think any other team is going to do that. I don't think teams are going to be trying to create cap to get Malik Beasley $20 million because I think that would be an overpay. That's first. And second, you don't want to engage in that because you would be overpaying him, and it wouldn't be as great of a contract. $14.1 million I think is great for him. That's fine. Some people even would want him for less, but $14 million, you should feel okay with that. And it's not like you're going to get outbid by another team. I really don't foresee another team trying to create more cap space just to get Malik Beasley. It's not going to happen. So it looks like the Pistons will now be operating as an over-the-cap team. Before, maybe you can make an argument that creating around $25 million in cap space maybe could be helpful. I think now definitely $16.9 million compared to the $14.1 non-taxpayer MLE that you would have doesn't make much sense to try to create that cap space. So that's the impact of Cade's increase in contract due to him making the All-NBA team. The other thing, and I'm not going to dive into it here, just going to bring it up. We'll dive into it probably at other points in the offseason. You see how much Cade's making. Look at how much that is, 30% of the cap. Once you start throwing all these extensions in there, a Duren extension, an Ivy extension, an Ausar extension, an Iran extension, if you are once you start throwing a lot of these extensions in there, you better be sure that this is a title contending core, because you will be wrapped up. That will be your team. Like, Cade's taking up a lot of the cap now, as he deserves. You start throwing an extension to Ivy and during this offseason, and then an extension to Ausar the next offseason. You're really you're going up against the wall here. You're going to start seeing within the next year and a half, I think, you're going to start seeing some decisions being made. And maybe the decision is just to give everyone extensions. But we have now reached the part of the team building phase where you have to start making some of these tough choices, whether it ends up being bringing everybody back or maybe parting way from some players. But that's where we've reached now, because you have to be smart, especially with this new CBA and the second apron. You have to be smart with your salary cap. So that we're reaching that point soon. And we'll dive further into it later on in the offseason. But that's all I've got with this Cade Cunningham contract. And congratulations again to Cade making the All-NBA third team. I think he should have been second team, but it is what it is. Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. Would you guys have made Cade Cunningham the second All-NBA team, or are you guys okay with All-NBA third team? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. When we come back, now we're going to answer all the questions that you guys sent in for the mailbag episode, such as, is there any untouchables on this Detroit Pistons roster? We'll talk about that coming up. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. Man, you want to talk about highlight-worthy performances. That Knicks-Pacers game 1, oh my God, I feel so bad for anyone who had the Knicks money line with FanDuel. You got to be feeling absolutely sick right now. Sick. But if you were one of people like me who like engaging in live bets during games with FanDuel, you really could have got Indiana as a heavy underdog with around 5 minutes left and really could have cashed out. That's the kind of thing you can do at FanDuel, and that's probably what my favorite thing is to do, engage in some live betting during the games, take some underdogs when they're down and bet on them to come back. You can also do same-game parlays, player props, performance trends. Fans have way more than ever to play smart and win big with FanDuel. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. It's a great deal. Head over to FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. There's another great way to support the podcast. But let's go ahead and get into the mailbag portion of the episode today. We're going to have a lot more of these mailbags coming around because it's the off season. So if you want to engage, you want to have a question in the mailbag episodes, comment down below in the YouTube video, ask a question, go in the community tabs, a part of our YouTube community, go in the community tabs, a part of our SUBSTACK community. Ask whatever questions, and it will be featured on what's probably going to be a weekly mailbag now from here on out. So if you didn't get your question in this week, get it in next week. But let's start off with this question. And this is going to be something, again, a lot of these questions are going to be topics that we're going to discuss a lot throughout the offseason. But this one was asked by C-Note. Outside of Cade Cunningham, who's untouchable on this team? So instead of saying who's untouchable, because I don't think there's anybody untouchable on the team, to make it more interesting, I'm going to do a tier list of guys that, of like the tiers of untouchable. Like, who's the most untouchable? Who's the least untouchable? Of the players that matter. So, like, I'm not going to have Tim Hardaway Jr., Paul Reed, etc., guys like that. So, obviously, the only real untouchable is Cade. And even with what happened with Luka Doncic makes me feel like, look, Cade is about as close as possible to untouchable. But if Luka can be traded, then Cade Cunningham can be traded. So I almost don't want to put him at untouchable, but I will. We'll put him on untouchable. Next, in Tier 2, there's only one player I would have in Tier 2. Tier 2, I have Ausar Thompson. I have Ausar Thompson in Tier 2 simply because his impact on winning and his impact throughout a game, the numbers back it up completely. The eye test backs it up completely. The team completely flipped the switch in January. As soon as he was put into the starting lineup, this team played like a 45 to 50 win pace. In the playoffs, they dominated his minutes. They won his minutes badly. And this is despite him being a finished offensive player. We all know his weaknesses offensively. And despite that, he is already so great as a defender and so impactful as a defender. He's the only other player of this young core besides Cade that you can say that he is great at something, that he is truly great at something. I think the other guys you can say are good at some things. I think Ausar and Cade are the only ones that have elite attributes, elite impact. Ausar's defense is all NBA defensive worthy, and we saw how impactful it is, along with him being arguably the best athlete, top 5 athlete in the entire NBA. With some of the skills he has offensively to build upon, I think Ausar is very clearly in tier 2 of untouchable. He's too enticing, and if you made Ausar Thompson available, I feel like almost every team would be calling. If you try and make a trade, that will be the player everyone's asking for, Ausar Thompson. In tier 3, I'm going to put Duren and Ivy. Put both of them in the same tier for this reason. I hesitated to even put them in tier 3 because I don't know what's going to happen in this offseason with them. I don't know if they're going to get extended. We don't know what the moves are going to be around them, but they've both proven. We'll start with Duren, who I just completed a playoff player review and will be posted tomorrow on the Substack. Check out for that on Saturday morning. But Duren, at age 21, has showcased his impact offensively, his ability to be a DHO hub, his playmaking, his finishing ability at the rim, his lob catching, processing as an offensive player, all of that, his offensive rebounding, his rebounding in general. Like, we've seen all those things to really believe in Duren at the age of 21 years old. But defensively, there has been a lot left to be desired still, and he has to improve upon, which is why he doesn't join Ausar in tier 2, because if Duren doesn't ever improve upon that defense, it's hard to make him the starting big of the future. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying you should trade him. I don't think you should trade him. You should keep him. You continue to develop him. He's still getting better. You should be happy with how he's going. And if you get a good contract, extend him. Because there is a good chance he's the center of the future. However, if he doesn't improve defensively, it's hard to make that your starting center, which is why I have him in tier 3 instead of joining Ausar at tier 2. With Jay and Ivy has had an improved year 3. He improved as a three-point shooter. He maintained his ability as a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. He isn't a dynamic athlete, but he's inconsistent still as a finisher around the rim. He's not a great defender, and he's coming off an injury. So he's just not, and for what it's worth, now this is going to get brought up. Doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it, but it will be brought up. The team was winning without him. Does that mean the team is better without him? No. But it means the team was able to have a pretty good level of success without him. So the question will be, how impactful is he, and can you move him for assets or something that will take the team to the next level, or is he more impactful just being on the team? That's those conversations even being alive, being something that can be had, is why I have them in tier 3. And like I just mentioned with Ausar, I don't believe either of them are elite at anything like Ausar is, and I don't believe either of them have the same level of impact with any one skill as Ausar has with how good he is defensively. So that's why I have them in tier 3. And then in tier 4, I have Ron and Isaiah Stewart. The reason why I have Ron down here with Stu, and again, this does not mean, it doesn't mean I'm saying these guys should be traded. It's just I'm ranking them in the tiers here. Stu, I have him down here not because he's not as good as Duren or not as good as Ivy, simply because he is a really good backup center and he's on a really good contract, which means he is tradable. Now, does that mean the Pistons should trade him? Will trade him? No. But out of all the players on the Pistons roster, he probably is the most tradable because he's on a good contract. You should be able to match salaries with him, and he's very valuable to just about any team out there. Any team would love to have a switchy enough big that can space the floor a little bit, is physical, plays hard, a really great defender, great rim protector. Like, everyone would want that on their team. So out of all the players, the ones who are most tradable, I would probably say Stu, not because they want to move on from him, but because I think he probably would be the easiest to net value for. I think the other guys, it's hard to pinpoint what you want value-wise for them. Stu, I feel like a lot of teams would probably give a pretty good asset for Stu because of his contract and his impact defensively. I have Ron down here with Stu simply because he's not as proven. He could very well be as high as tier 2. He could very well be as low as tier 4. Maybe he's below tier 4. He had a nice rookie season. He didn't get all rookie first or second team, which is fine. It's not a big deal. He didn't have a large role. He also played on a playoff team, so he didn't get to play 30 minutes and shoot 30 times a game, whatever. He's just unproven right now. He hasn't proven enough to be a high-tiered player, I would say. Doesn't mean he can't get there. He has a load of potential. I just haven't seen enough from him. Because of him playing for a playoff team this year and playing in limited minutes, I don't feel like it would be right to put him any higher than tier 4 right now, just because we don't really know. You can guess, you can estimate, you can make educated guesses on what you think he could become, but we don't really know. All we really know about Ron right now is he's a good athlete. He has the Detroit attitude, and he's a really good slasher with the ball in his hands. That's all we really know about him right now. And that's fine. He has a bunch of potential. We see it, but I need to see a little bit of it. I need to see more of it actualized before I feel comfortable even ranking him anywhere in these tiers. I didn't really know where to rank him in the tier, so I just put him safely in the tier 4 spot. So that's all the players I'm going to rank. I'm not everyone else that didn't get ranked is 100% tradable and not even close to untradeable to me. Like, Tobias could be traded if the good deal comes along. If you could get a star for Tobias and, just for salary matching, yeah, you do that. He's not untouchable. Malik's not untouchable. THA definitely is not untouchable. Schroeder, not untouchable. Tech, obviously not untouchable. Sasser, obviously not untouchable. Like, the only guys that really matter in this untouchable argument or conversation here, to me, is Cade, Ausar, Duren, Ivy, Stu, Ron. That's all that matters, and that's my tiers for him. So let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter, @KookHill. How would you guys rank, or tier, I should say, the untouchables, quote-unquote, on this team? Let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter, @KookHill. When we come back, next question is there any one move that could launch the Pistons into title contention? We'll talk about that coming up. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel @Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. All right, so this question was from Richard Brooks. He says, what is the one move that could make Detroit title contenders next season? I feel like there's going to be people that really like my answer, and there's going to be people who really dislike my answer. And that's fine. That's fine. The only move, because title contenders to me is like first or second seed. And there are people actually picking you to win the title. Like, people are actually envisioning a future where you are winning the title. I'm not talking about let me pull up the standings. Who's a good example? Not a really good team that everyone's like, oh, it was a fun story, but no one's actually picking to win the title, like the Clippers. Don't think anyone was picking the Clippers to win the title. The Rockets. Like, no one would actually... The Rockets, despite being the second seed, no one was picking them to be in the finals. The Grizzlies, whatever, 48 wins. The East, actually, the Bucks, Orlando, the Pistons, like this year. I don't feel like anyone was picking the Knicks before the playoffs started, and here they are. So I don't think people were picking the Pacers either. So maybe the question itself is flawed, but that's how I'm looking at it. The only way the Pistons go to that level, the way you actually have people picking them potentially to win a title, is they make a risky trade for a guy that is also a top 15 player with Cade, and they both play like top 15 players. That is the only way it happens next year. Can they jump up into the top 5? Can they jump up into the top 4? Can they win a playoff series? Yeah. Without doing that, yes. They could win a playoff series without doing any of that. Does that qualify as title contender to me? No. It means you're a really good playoff team. You can win a playoff series, which is good. But do I consider that you have a chance to win the title? No. If you're talking about just becoming a title contender next year, I'm going to say the name. I'm not going to dive any further into it, but I'm just going to say the name. If they were to trade for Zion, and Zion stayed healthy, you have 2 top 15 players right there. That would be your way of becoming a title contender instantly next year. You make a risky trade for a guy who maybe blows up or maybe stays healthy, and you end up getting him for cheap, and he ends up playing up to his what we've seen him play like, which is a top 10 to 15 player in the NBA. And you have that with Cade. So now you have 2 guys who are all NBA second, third team worthy on the same team and then weak East. That would be like it for me. And it's not just Zion, but Zion's the name I'm going to throw out because everyone knows I'm a fan of Zion. So, but there's other guys. Like if you made a trade like that, that's the only way I could see the Pistons becoming a contender, a legit contender next year. But I don't think, unless the internal improvement included someone jumping to top 10, top 15 status, which I don't see coming. I think the Pistons' pathway next year is just become a better team, win a playoff series, and then just give it everything you got in the second round. Maybe somehow you make it to the third round. That's it. Title contention, you need something like that to happen. All right, next question I got is from Kurt. Said, should the Pistons follow a both or nothing approach this offseason as it pertains to Ivy and Duren's extension? Meaning if they extend one but not the other, could they run the risk of ruining some team chemistry? Listen, guys. I'm going to say something here that I didn't know was controversial until last week. I forget who it was. Oh, Giannis. It was Giannis. Look, I'm going to break some hearts here with this, but it is what it is. There was like a brief conversation or just a brief topic in the Pistons community, like, oh, would you trade for Giannis, whatever. I think Bleacher Report came out with like a potential trade for Pistons, Giannis, whatever. And there are some people discussing why even trade for Giannis. I'm not even going to get into how insane that is. Giannis is a top 15 player of all time. If you could have that player on your team, you get that player on your team. Is what is. Put that to the side. The people who said, I just don't want Giannis in this team. That's whatever. It's not possible anyways. Anyways, my point is, some of the conversation that came up around it was, well, I wouldn't even try to trade for Giannis because I don't think that we would have the best package. And if that happened, you didn't have the best package and you actually tried to trade for Giannis, if some of the young players found out that you were going to be traded for Giannis Antetokounmpo, it might hurt their feelings and ruin team chemistry. Guys, listen. And that's why I brought this up. Listen. These are grown men. These are grown men. If these players, if you're telling me that these players' mentality, these players' mental is so fragile that being included in a Giannis Antetokounmpo potential trade is enough for you to be completely broken and be like, I can't believe this team would trade me for Giannis. How could they? How could they trade me for Giannis? Like, come on, bro. Like, if being included in a Giannis trade talk is instead of a compliment, you're being included in a trade for an all-time great. If instead of being included or being thought of as a compliment, you're looking at it as, I don't know how I could play for this team next year, man. I can't believe they would almost trade me for Giannis. Like, come on, bro. You shouldn't be on the team anyways. If your mental is that fragile, then it is what it is, dog. It's the same thing here. If Duren getting an extension and then Ivy doesn't get one, or if Ivy gets an extension and then Duren doesn't get one, and that ruins the other player's mentality so much to where they just give up and it just ruins everything, then that player shouldn't be on the squad anyways. Like, come on. If that is something that actually is going on. Now, I understand this in certain regards. Not in these conversations, but like when you have a veteran that if you just took, like this stuff right here, I've heard from coaches. Like, you can't just take this veteran out the rotation because then you upset him and then it upsets the locker room during the season. I get that. Okay, I understand that kind of stuff when it pertains to certain players. Some players are given a leash because of their respect in the locker room and respect on the court, like, etc. I get that. Extensions, money, like contracts, I am not hesitating to give one player a contract that I think deserves it. And if you're given an extension, it's because you think they deserve it. I am not hesitating to give either one of these players an extension if I think they deserve it, because I think it might hurt the other players' feelings. Like, get over it, dude. We are in a multi-billion dollar company, league, whatever you want to call it. This is a profession. We are grown adults. Like, dude, leave it at the front door. And if you can't, I'll just trade you. Like really, that's how I feel about it. If you are getting your feelings hurt over stuff like this, I really just don't want you on the team. Like, either get over it or I'll just trade you. I would really, like, honestly, I'm not even joking. If there were, let's say they extended Ivy and or Duren. Choose whichever one. And then all of a sudden we got a report like a week later that came out that the other person was like, yeah, people in that camp and that player are really upset and don't know if they want to play in the team next year because this person got an extension and they didn't. If that came out, I would then record a podcast the very next day and say trade them. Get them off the team. There is no way something like that, you can be that fragile of a mentality to where if someone else on your team gets paid, you just stop playing. You just give up. It hurts you so bad. Not that the team told you we'll never pay you. It's not if it's we extend Duren or Ivy and then it's okay, we just don't want to pay you, we're not going to. Yeah, then I can see the player saying, okay, then get me out of here. But I don't think that would be the case with either one. It would be, we extend this person, we believe in them. This one, we would like to see a little bit more from you. If we can see a little bit more, we'll pay you. That kind of thing. Like, dude, get over it. This is a business, man. Like, come on. This conversation, like, killed me last week when I saw it with the Giannis stuff. I was like, dude, you cannot be, like, and there's a lot of people that believe this. They're like, don't trade for Giannis. Don't even try to. If he said he wanted to come to Detroit, don't even trade for him. Because if the Bucks don't accept the trade, then Ivy or Duren might have their feelings hurt that they were almost traded for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, dog, come on, bro. like, dude. Let's be so for real right now. Can we be serious? Can we be for real? But yeah, that's my answer to that. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. If you want to be included in a future Mailbag episode, leave your question either down below in the comments, in the community tab at the YouTube, or in the community tab at the Substack. Check out the description down below for the Substack and the Playback. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. And until next time, peace out, everybody.